of the Florida weather for sure. So, well, man, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out for the show today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great to connect with you as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
man, 100%.
So let's get into your life. Let's get into the myriad of skills and talents that you have as an entrepreneur, a speaker, an author. And I want to begin our journey by asking you 4 years ago, we were trying to figure out this pandemic, how it was going to affect us. It was a momentous event for all of our lives for a variety of reasons. How did you survive that time period? And how did it change the way that you do things now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was already kind of supremely positioned for it. And it was really kind of just luck because I'd been in the online marketing space for a number of years prior to that. So I was already building like these scalable systems, online courses, paid communities, virtual summits. And so when the pandemic happened and everyone was kind of like scrambling to figure it all out, I've been on Zoom for years. Like I've been doing all these things already. So for me, how it really transformed things was there was a lot more people that I needed to help in a faster way. I needed to help way more people because prior to that, most companies didn't really see their information and their things as products. And when that happened, it was like, okay, we need to sell something. People can't go to us anymore. What do we need to do? And so that was like a big influx for us at that point, for sure.
So if I put you in front of a bunch of third grade students right now and it's career day, and they want to get to the heart and soul of what you do for a living every day in 2024, and they say, hey, what do you do for a living? What's your answer?
Well, I think the simple answer is that I help take people's information and their passion and turn it into a scalable way that they can make a living helping other people. It's as simple as that. Like it's literally, you could call it education, you can call it courses or any of that kind of thing. It's literally like whatever you know and whatever you're passionate about, however you want to help them, I help you create the structure around how to build an ecosystem around that and sell it. So if they're third graders, I help you take your excitement and your passion and turn it into something that makes you money for a lifetime.
Which is so necessary. So let's put you in that seat as a third grader. What did you want to be when you were growing up in Pittsburgh?
In third grade, well, actually, in third grade, I lived in Sacramento
Oh,
because
okay.
I grew up in Pittsburgh. My
Gotcha.
mom, at the time, she got an opportunity to work for Aerojet Space Community around second grade. So in third grade, I would have been in Sacramento. And all I really wanted to do at that time was do music. I was so passionate about music and creative things. And I don't think that I would have seen myself doing anything other than that at that time. So music, creative things, super, super passionate about that in third grade. I'm still passionate about it. I still do. I'm involved in the music things and creative things all together. So yeah, that would have been me in third grade for 100%.
What was the first concert you saw that blew you away?
Well, first of all, like all concerts blow me away, all of them.
Yeah.
But my first concert, my mom took me to was the Four Tops. And
Wow.
the reason why it was so powerful was because just a little backstory. My mom had her own like music production TV studio show that she would do like focus around music. And so she would have artists like Sammy Davis Jr. and Lena Horne and the OJs and all this kind of stuff. And so when she took me to that concert, it was larger than life, but so much more so because I got to meet them after the show and talk with them with her, and I got pictures with them and that whole thing, and just have a whole conversation. They knew her, you know, so it really just made it very real for me, and I just love every aspect of that. And she's not here anymore too, so I really hold on to that memory like very tightly.
So did you get to meet a lot of these musicians and artists?
Quite a few, quite a few. Yeah, it was just super cool, man. Coolest thing ever. Yeah. And I'll
So
also like, no, go ahead. I'm listening to
no, no,
you.
no, 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 you're good. I'm curious because at that age you're like a sponge, and by osmosis you have to soak certain things from people that are that big and esteemed. And I'm not just saying fame. I'm talking about people that have an intellect and have a creative drive and have this force field around them that's so powerful. What did you get from that?
I think the biggest thing that I pull from that is that people can really do anything in their life that they're passionate about, anything that they resonate with. Like you can literally do it. Like we're living in a world that's surrounded by all of everyone else's ideas, everything that we touch. And so when you meet with prolific artists and you really get to be in their space and you see the magnetism that they have, it becomes very real. Like this becomes possible for you too. It just kind of gets in your blood, you know? So I think that was like the biggest lesson I pulled from it for sure.
So did you have another thought? I didn't mean to hop in. I got excited about the idea that that was happening.
No, I mean, I'm just here to connect and share. I mean, I do think it was foundational for my early upbringing. And to this day, like I can't get it out of my blood. I believe that I can do anything. And I think that my mom really resonated that way too, which is probably why she had so many relationships in that arena. But she definitely passed that on. I got it honest, 100%.
Yeah. So let's go back to your childhood. Let's go back to where you're born and raised, and along with this, with your mother and what she was doing, her gig that brought you and opened a world up to all of these magnanimous people. What were some foundational elements that made you somebody that not only created but is helping people find their dreams? What were those seeds planted in you?
You know, it's been a lot of different things, but there were a few things that I think really kind of set the tone. I don't think I shared this yet, but I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps, and when I was in the Marine Corps, I had a buddy that like sold me an old film camera when I went to a new duty station in Rota, Spain. He gives me this camera. I start taking it on our training missions and that kind of thing. And it just kind of laid a seed with me because I could see these stories unfolding in front of me, and then they became real. So when I left, I just wanted to see more of that. I wanted to do more of that. And I later down the line, I met this other gentleman who took kind of a liking to me. And after we connected, I learned that he had like this really big software company. And after building a relationship with him, I'm like, he doesn't know any software. And I had no idea how that happened. And I asked him, I was like, well, how did that happen? You don't know any software. And he's like, well, I don't, but I know really amazing, brilliant people that know software. And he was like, you need to figure out ways that you can take your knowledge and your skill set and be able to make money in your sleep with it. And whenever you do that, you don't have to be the one to do it, but if you can facilitate it, you will literally have a lifetime of freedom. And if you could share that with people, even better. So I think those components kind of made the way for me to get to where I'm at right now, for sure.
I would think too, you mentioned Pittsburgh and then you mentioned Sacramento, one coast to the other, and now Orlando. Being in this geographical bubble and timeline has to lend to your kind of empathy and understanding and the way that you take in the world and even America.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think within some context here, I went to 14 different schools before I got out of high school. So
Wow.
like every year for me was like a new school, new people, kind of rotating personalities. And what that actually taught me was, I guess you could say adaptability, but it's really not like that. It's really about like kind of moving things out of the space so you can have real meaningful relationships as fast as possible because I didn't know when that would change. And so that piece, I think, has really helped me in the world of business, in the world of creativity, just kind of really being able to get to the real meat and bones of who people are, be interested and curious about those people, and be able to build lasting relationships in that way. So that I think has probably been the most influential component when it comes to that.
So being a child, you were an unintentional nomad. You were a nomad before it was hip.
I was a nomad before it was hip. I was already doing that. Yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah,
were.
100%.
Been
Yeah.
there. So on this ride that you've been on in life of inspiration and inspiring others, who has been that hero for you?
Oh, it's got to be my mom, man. It's got to be. It's just when I look back at it, she didn't have all the resources. She really didn't have a lot of the foundations for certain things, but she still was like this character that, she was in Who's Who of American Women, probably 7 different editions, right? She had all these people that really confide in her. Tyler Perry came to her to help him construct his like plays and stuff like that before he became big, and like these lots of other actors and stuff like that. She got into movies and casting. So, for me, she's definitely the hero, the unspoken hero that pushed me down the right path for sure.
So
100%.
how did she acquire all of the chops and the clout that she had? How did that happen?
I think I think acquiring it was a reflection of just who she was. She
Yeah.
was so bold and so brazen, just so willing to just dive into any environment and go straight to the core of who she needs to meet, right? She was just like that, and had this magnetism around her. So I think the things that she did were really just a reflection of what her personality was like, I can touch anything. I can do anything. And she just would. So how did she get there? I think that she ended up meeting people when she would throw herself in the environment that interested her.
So let me ask you this. If you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating, spend a little time with them, who would it be?
Have an unlimited list for this probably, but I think what would really excite me is I would like to meet with Jay-Z because I feel like we would really resonate. I know he's done some really brilliant stuff in the world and obviously an extraordinary artist, business person, and all that, but I really feel like we come from similar beginnings and I would really like to have some good conversations with him. So Jay-Z, if you're out there, let's talk, man. Let's vibe.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. What is your motivation every day to wake up and to do this work that you, because it's not just a job. You have to lend yourself to help people find their dream and their oasis, but you have to save some back for yourself as a human and evolve. What is that collective gas gumption every day for you to get up and do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the core piece of this is that my primary driver is freedom, access to freedom. When I was probably about 6 years old. My mom had this old house in north side of Pittsburgh, and I was playing hide and go seek one day with my cousin and my sister. My cousin and my sister go to hide in the attic, and I got the idea I was going to go hide in the basement, which nobody usually would do. It was scary. And my mom had this old refrigerator down there, and I basically took the racks out of the refrigerator, climbed in there trying to get situated, and I knocked it over on the door. So now I'm like in there and I'm clawing and I'm screaming and I'm gasping for air. I'm trying to get out of there. Luckily, my mom came to find me. But like that was the moment for me that I discovered that like I need freedom, like I need oxygen. They're the same, and that for me, that primary driver to have freedom is the thing that kind of pushes me to keep doing all the stuff that I do. But greater than that, I now have more context for how that's connected to other people's lives. And so there's a natural win-win for everything that I do in regards to this because it gets me more freedom and it helps me share with other people how to do that for themselves.
It's interesting you bring that up because that's a big flashpoint. That's a turning point in your life. But when you think about your business life and the influence that you wield over people and help them, what's been one of your toughest clients, toughest months, toughest years, toughest things that you had to go through, but the end was very sweet and you learned something and you evolved to a point you didn't expect?
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship in general is quite complex, because it's not just like systems and if you have something to sell, like sometimes it's like mindset things, right? But I will share something that was a bit difficult for me at that stage, but it ended up being really kind of amazing, right? So early stage when I started the business, I'd left software space and I didn't know business basically. And I went to some events. I got invited to this like business mastermind. It was like super expensive. So I didn't have the money. I took all the money that I did have and everything that of value that I could sell. I sold it because I really was convinced that the people that were going to be in this mastermind were going to help me get to the next level. Essentially, it was in Colorado Springs. So I sell all my stuff. I go to Colorado Springs. I don't even have enough money to get back from Colorado Springs. And I was just really dedicated. And I went there and I paid attention. I built the right relationships. And from being there from like a short period of time, I was able to hear from these really, really highly successful entrepreneurs. I really shouldn't even have been in the room. That somebody who's like me. But I learned from these entrepreneurs like what they were doing, how they were thinking about it, how they were pricing their models. And I immediately changed the pricing from what I was offering, like 10 times the amount that I was doing immediately. And I sold one. And that was the money that I used to get back from Colorado Springs.
Wow.
So I just think like having that mindset that I'm willing to throw myself in the fire, figure it out, discover it, and then apply immediately that's a mindset thing. You have to be willing to do what it takes. And most people face that. When they face that, it's difficult for them to perform. And I was willing to do that.
So you basically take what you've learned in your life, your wisdom, and you dispense that onto clients. I'm curious, what's the best advice that you've ever gotten?
Best advice I've ever gotten. I don't know what the best advice I've ever gotten is, but I will say, and also, I don't know that I impart my knowledge on them. Maybe I impart my perspectives on them, but
Sure.
it's more of that I'm taking what I know to work really, really well in these marketing environments or branding environments, and I'm facilitating it in a way that people can use and taking out all the jargon so that they understand it and they can retain it and they can do something with their life with it, right? But probably the best advice I would give someone else that I think resonates for me is that inside of every business is a person. Like there's people in there, right? Like they're not just doing a thing. And if you can just if you can care enough, you can be interested enough to truly connect with people. You can really supersede things you don't have. Like you don't have the money, you don't have the expertise, but you can build the right relationship and you care. You can find yourself with master keys to get into most doors.
So, as a speaker, what's the best speech that you've ever witnessed in your life?
Oh, I don't know, man. That's a great question. I've seen so many. Okay, so I'm going to back up a little bit, right? So I created this thing called the Online Core Success Summit with my wife many years ago now. But even on our summit, we've had probably 400 speakers over the year, like so many, so I don't know. There's a lot of really, really brilliant people out there. But I will say there is one particular person that stands out to me. His name is Chris Smith, and he had this thing that he would do called the campfire effect. And essentially, what it would do was like a formula that he would help people walk through with a framework to basically synthesize their own story. So when they showed up to meet people, they could do it powerfully, right? They could show up, they have a way that they can present what they do succinctly, and it would kind of like I was saying earlier, move things out of the space so they can really kind of let people know who they are. And I just to this day, I still love that talk. I think it was really powerful, and if anyone wants to go check it out online, it will transform your whole entire life when it comes to presenting.
I saw Bill Clinton at the Harry S. Truman Library back in '05. And to
Yeah,
this day, maybe it was '04, 20 years later, I still remember what he was talking about. Like it was that good. There's just some people that have it.
he's got magic to him. I met him
Yes.
once. I met him once, and I'm so bold that when I was talking to him, I said at the end of our conversation, well, if there's anything that you need any help with, be happy to support. Here's my card. Let's talk. That kind of thing. And he just kind of looked at me like, who the hell is this guy? Think he is, but he like in a positive way though. He looked
Yeah.
at him like this guy's really got some on him, and I mean, it was a good conversation. I really enjoyed it, but most people probably wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And his people surrounding him were like gave him the green, like yeah, like you can take your card. Like it was funny, man. Yeah.
My son's 19. His name's Miles after Miles Davis. And
Woo! There you
yeah.
go.
Oh yeah, he's got things to live up to. And and I made a business card for him. And I have him give it out. And it's just his tagline is sports lover and a curious man. And he just gives it out, and it's like I think it's good to put yourself out there, and a part of it's tongue in cheek, but part of it's like, you know what? You never know what can happen. You never know who needs it.
You don't. You don't. You really don't know. And I had a friend, right, just like in the music space, and they invited me to go to the Grammys a few years back. So I go with them, and I met so many people in that environment, people that others would be like see as larger than life, and I had so many valuable conversations. But we get to a stage of the night and it's like this like VIP celebrity only party. Once again, I shouldn't have been there based on my own criteria, but personality wise, I was there because I was supposed to be there, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I get there, I get on the dance floor, I start playing the music, I'm dancing, I'm living up, and people are looking at me like, who is this? Who's this dude? And then a lot of them just got on the dance floor and started dancing with me. I had like a time, I had an amazing time, but I just think that you throw yourself in the arena, you build with who you get a chance to build with, and let the chips fall where they fall, and you'll find some really cool stuff happens, man.
Act like you belong. That's the thing. I remember in my 20s, we opened up, our Union Station was dormant for like 12, 13 years. It flooded
Mm.
out, it was in bad shape. Well, they reopened it. And at the time, I was working for an architectural engineering firm, and they were going to have this big gala. Motown was going to be there. There was a big Motown band. The whole thing was going to be done up. So I'm like, let's go. Let's put a friend of mine, my roommate at the time. I said, let's get our finest clothes and let's go down. So we go down and we're watching people going in. And we notice that there's this ring that everybody's wearing on their right hand that's lighting up. So we go into the door and we're like, hey, we're with HNTB. And we got in. And we just got in there and acted like we belong. We're having crab legs, gin and tonics, the band's on the stage. So it's like it's that idea, man. Just you go in and you belong. And that's it.
I mean, there's something to be said about like acting like you belong, but I think it's like a different gear when your perception is that you belong where you are, where
Right.
you belong where you desire to be. That's been really my approach. I belong where I desire to be. Like if I walk in a room, I'm in that room. I'm not in here with them; they're in here with me now. Like, and
Absolutely.
I think that gives you a lot of power, especially when it comes to like putting yourself out there, getting on shows, stages, podcasts, events, whatever, and just putting yourself in the environment and having the perception that if you're there, that's where you're supposed to be at this moment. So I love it.
I dig it. So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you. You can give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've accumulated. What advice would you impart on that 18-year-old version? And would that version of you listen?
I do think the 18-year-old version of me would listen. And, there are a lot of lessons I've learned, some harder than others, about what to pay attention to. But I would just say stay curious, build real relationships with people. There's so many things that have come my way that I would say have fallen through the cracks. For example, I had a buddy that told me about Bitcoin in like 2010 or 2000, early 2011. And he comes to me and he's like, oh man, I'm going to create this alternate currency. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, dude? You're not going to do that. You don't have any skills. You're a server at a restaurant, bro. Like, you're not going to do that. I mean, ideally, that would be amazing, but you don't even know anything about it, right? And so he told me about it. It was probably between $5 to $10 at the time. And I just was dismissive to him. I was dismissive to him, and I really shouldn't have done that. He also didn't take any actions on the thing that he told me about. Luckily, I did get involved later in blockchain and like learn about cryptocurrencies and get invested and this and that. But I would have just said, stay curious. Don't dismiss anyone's ideas, anyone's thing that they share with you, because you don't know what the power of that message is for your life. So that's what I would say.
So at the end of the day, everything that you've done, achieved, and evolved into at this point, what are you ultimately the proudest of?
Um, I have quite a few things to be proud of as well. But I would say I'm most proud that I've reached this age and have done the things that I've done. And I have this like sense about me that is still very in tune with like my childhood like curiosity and playfulness. Like I want to play video games, I want to play sports, I want to see the world, and I want to try all the food. Like I want to do all the things. And I have this excitement still within me that like is like just under the skin at all times. And I just love that. I think it's so cool because there's so many things that have happened that could have defeated me. They could have like broken down my spirit. I'm so resilient and so unwilling to submit that I've retained that piece of like, I don't know, but I could do this, about me. And I just think it's so cool, man. So I would say that's the thing I'm most proud about at this stage.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that experiences your world, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Um, I think that I am a legend in the making. That's what I think in my own life and then for my family's life. There's a lot of people that would say like they didn't come from, a wealthy family, but that doesn't mean anything about if a wealthy family can come from you. I love people open-heartedly. I'm genuinely interested in who they are and wanting to build with them and do amazing things in the world. I want to see the world better than I found it. And so my actions follow that. My heart follows that. My mind follows that. So I think that down the road, when I look back at the things that I have done and how I've impacted people, or even myself and my own family, I think I'll be proud of that. And that's enough. Like I could be a silent legend, but I think I would be proud of the type of person that I am from a humanity perspective. And, that's good enough for me.
So we get off this call, time machine pulls up, you can hop in and go anywhere in the history of music and see one live show. Where are you going?
Anywhere in the history of music, that's a hard question, man. Like the history of music, I'm a music fan. I love music so much, but I'm going back to that first concert with my mom, 100%. I just want to spend that time with her again. I want to feel that first concert again, and that's what I would do. But second to that, I'd probably go back to the '80s and see Michael Jackson. That would have been amazing because my cousin at the time got to see him live and I didn't, and I was so upset because I was a way bigger Michael Jackson fan. I had the jacket, the glove, I was ready, so I would do that. But that would be second to going back to see the Four Tops again with my mom. Yeah.
So my dad was a car salesman. We didn't grow up with much money, but he got into a pool at one point and won tickets to see the Victory Tour in '85 at Arrowhead Stadium. And I got to witness that. Man, when that glove came up out of the ground, he came up out of
Ah.
a little hole and that sequin glove just glittered all over our faces. It was
Larger
like
than life, man. Ah,
crazy,
amazing.
dude. Totally
I you
crazy.
know I see artists today, and there's tons that I love, but like I just don't get the sense that people understand like the magnitude of that time for
Yeah.
for him. Like I
Oh,
don't think they get it. There wasn't a social media yet. Like if people blow up on social media and the internet right now, that kind of makes sense. All right. But there wasn't yet. And when people would see him in faint, in like waves of faints, right? Oh my God, man. So
yeah.
and he was like that from like 3 years old.
Yeah.
So but that would be my answer,
Yeah.
and I love that you had that experience. That's so cool,
It was
man.
so cool, man. It was. So, hey, man, if anyone wants to delve into all of your myriad of worlds that you're involved with, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, I think you can just probably find me on social media. Obviously, I have a website and that kind of thing. It's got a free guide that helps people do the stuff that I was saying earlier. Just go to markettheory.us/free/guide, a dash guide rather, and they can get a free guide to help them, figure that out for themselves. But otherwise, you can just find me on social media. I'm on Instagram. It's just Lechon Kirb, LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn if it's a business thing. LinkedIn/IN/Lechon Kirb. But yeah, you can find me on the interwebs. I'm out there.
Right on. LaShawn, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your grace. I appreciate it.
True honor to be here, man. Thank you for having me. It was really a great conversation. You asked some really good questions. You're awesome. Thank you,
Thank you.
man.
I appreciate it. You are too, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. Best of luck.